Slide two brothers meet one another when they slide up to the mic. It's bread and butter with one another. Let's start up that recording light.
Welcome back to Bread and Butter, everybody. This is episode 17, and we are the Hearthstone podcast that serve up the basics that the average player needs for Hearthstone improvement. And today we have a very special guest, the man, the myth, the legend, Chanman. Chanman, how are you doing today?
Good. Happy to be here.
I am excited to have you on the show. I was very excited when I reached out to you. You're like, yeah, let's do it. And you were good for this week. It was perfect timing. Nice episode right before things get a little turbulent with the new expansion announcement coming probably tomorrow.
Yeah, confirmed tomorrow.
Oh, is it? I didn't even realize it was tomorrow. That's going to be exciting.
Yeah, it was just a tweet, and it was like their music brought them fame. Their something brought something else, and so it's for me, it's hinting at like Elite Tauren Chieftain coming back one way or another.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's going to be sweet. ETC was amazing. At least the first rendition. There's only been one ETC, right?
No, there's been a second.
There's a second one? Okay, I don't remember that one. Okay, shoot. I might have missed that one.
Oh, it's all good.
Yeah, it was I think 3 years ago. So
okay.
It wasn't in this last year's rotation. Maybe it was even longer than that, but
and they need to make him a hero and super powerful so he can be really in the meta.
I think we're gonna meet
wonderful.
I think we're gonna meet the rest of his bandmates now too. I would assume.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be so nice, and they'll all be the neutral legendaries, and it'll be great.
That would make will they be neutral legendaries? Because it feels like ETC is kind of now warrior, right?
Well, yes, but how big is this band gonna be? There's like 11 classes now.
Okay, but hear me out. League of Explorers have been class cards. And then they had the League of Explorers versus the villains, right? So maybe what we have here, maybe the theme, my guess.
Multi-tribal or multi-class?
Battle of the Bands. And then we have we have new characters that are in the rival bands. So there's going to be 3 bands, ETC and 2 others. And they spread those amongst the 11 classes. Expansion.
Well, I hope ETC is the strongest because Warrior could really use something that's very strong. Because that's all I've been playing just because I feel I've always been, just like that in terms of not playing what the meta is and trying to play the worst class. And Warrior feels very weak right now.
You need to be playing Shaman
too. Yeah, both of them. I think both of them are pretty weak for me right now. So
yeah, I don't know if you listen to the TAC, the Angry Chicken, but they had Cora on for the 500th episode, and they said that she said that they're definitely going to be addressing Warriors' class identity and strength in the next year, and that's a priority for them.
That's good. Yeah. I mean, nice. I think we were going to get to it, but it definitely was on a break and coming back to Warrior. I mean, honestly, it feels exactly the same, as it was before. While all these other classes have so many dynamic things, so many really interesting interactions and whatnot. So I'm hoping that they'll do something with Warrior because Warrior's always been really close to my heart.
Well, that brings us right into our first topic. So, I mean, our first normal thing, we talk about what we've been doing in Hearthstone. So, you sounds like you've been playing Warrior. Tell us about what kind of decks you've been playing. I'm assuming Enrage, probably, or.
Yeah, so I was talking to Doc earlier, and I kind of took a pretty big break from playing Standard specifically. I played some Battlegrounds or whatnot, but when the last few years I was just working on Juked, I just didn't play as much Standard, and so. It was the first time I've ever been, so far behind, in terms of cards and just having just the ability to play whatever I wanted, right? So really went through a very new player experience of being so many expansions behind, and it was really cool to actually go through and just not really have just the pick of the litter in terms of the cards, and really trying to work with what I have and having that kind of experience and trying to ladder up. So right now I'm level 5 diamond, so I'm really trying to get this warrior, this control warrior with some bursts at the end. 2 legend, against all these other meta decks right now, and having a lot of fun. I've always enjoyed, just kind of slowly grinding and figuring out little tweaks and whatnot and getting there versus just kind of cheat coding it with our Hearthstone deck tracker and getting to legend quick. Sometimes I'll do that too, but I always really enjoy just kind of slugging away at it. And that's kind of where I'm mid slugging right now. So yeah, I've been playing that type of control, but has some bursts at the end with, different cards like Captain, Galvanger and obviously Astalor, and we definitely have like about 5 or 6 cards that are going to burst the face, for some of those combo decks and mages, and so definitely some good matchups. There are definitely some terrible ones like the Warlock, but overall, I feel like I'm going to grind it up to legend pretty soon here. So
you should definitely find your way over to the Coin Conceit Discord, because there is lots of talk about Warrior specifically. We have some avid Warrior fans, but what you just mentioned I is a really interesting thing to talk about.
Yeah.
You are coming back to the game after not playing for a while.
Yeah.
What is that experience like? How did you reintegrate yourself? Because a lot of people, the barrier to coming back is, I don't have the cards now. What am I going to do?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's been just an experience that, again, I haven't had probably ever, since the beginning, like beta. And I don't really even count that, just because everybody was going through that. So this is really the first time I've gone through it. And, I think I'm in a little bit, obviously I can buy a bunch of packs if I want to. I've been trying not to buy, a ton of packs, but I definitely had to do something, buying some of the set, just those mini sets or whatever, and just helping out with some of those cards. But overall, I would say that the store is kind of interesting with the different offerings. I think, that's pretty diverse now. I think it's good. I think that offering new things, obviously dependent upon, I think it's depending upon what you play. And, because I noticed that there's some class mini bundles that, I don't get every single class, right? I only get some classes. So those are kind of cool. And I think that it's still pretty expensive, it's just Hearthstone, right? Hearthstone's going to always be kind of, pricey, but I do like that there's just so many more offerings, and just like the mini sets are great. Don't even have to bother about the randomness of the packs, and you can kind of get this core set of cards that allow you to kind of build the flavor of some of these decks that they're trying to get us to play, right? So overall, yeah, I've been able to build a pretty cool, fun warrior deck, and not really felt too limited. I'm a real stickler about not dusting like legend cards and stuff, so it's even harder probably for me right now. Like I probably could have more more of card legends that are in the meta right now, but I'm just a stickler for never dusting those. So
well, if you do the Tavern Brawl once a week, you get a free standard pack, which is nice.
Yeah.
But what was it like opening the client, and seeing how different the client was?
The client's the same, right? Like there wasn't any, I mean, I've been playing Battlegrounds here and there, so I didn't play much of Mercenary. In fact, I still have like the 59 Mercenary packs or something. I got after the tutorial that you get that I haven't even done yet. So I just didn't really get into that, even doing whatever tutorial I did do. But
apparently very few people did. That's kind of
that's a pretty big bust, I think, on their end. But respect the attempt though.
Yep. Yeah, they did make it end of life. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, did they? I didn't even see that.
They announced the boss rush, which was like the final mode that they had been working on. They just said, "Hey, they basically said we're in maintenance mode now. No more new content. Have fun, enjoy it. That's
really
it. We're done."
Yeah, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. So, that's interesting. Given that, Hearthstone's a moneymaker for them, right? So,
yep. But it's weird too, because yes, Hearthstone's a moneymaker, but Blizzard, or in calls, as far as we can tell on Twitter, they don't mention Hearthstone anymore.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it doesn't make money. I mean, I feel like Hearthstone has the most, like compare it to Overwatch, or compare it to, maybe Overwatch 2 coming out is definitely a boost, but Hearthstone has the most clear, just monetization. It's like gotta buy packs to play, right? Everybody buys them to play. So unless the user count is just super, super low, which I don't think it's crazy low,
we did lose all of China.
Yeah, well, okay, that's true, but
Yeah.
still,
But I don't think they
it's
wanna shine a
StarCraft.
light.
you know,
I'm not
it's like-
sorry. I'm not trying to argue with you and say Hearthstone isn't making them a bunch
Yeah.
of money. It's just weird how they, outside looking in, right? Because like we don't have any insider knowledge, but
yeah.
it's just weird how they just choose to not discuss Hearthstone in like the quarterly like meetings that they have.
Yeah,
Well, they have before, but I think that the main idea of not doing that would be this is working fine. Let's not bring attention to it. Let's just keep it status quo. It's just churning and burning. Let's leave it alone and not make people say, "How can we get more money out of this?" No,
yeah.
stay where you're at.
And so, to be honest, like I don't think that jamming in a bunch of other game modes in Hearthstone is necessarily the best decision for them as a developer either. Like, with Hearthstone's, I still think of Hearthstone, like, well, it's probably starting to change a little bit because there's maybe equal amount of people playing Battlegrounds as there is, Standard and Wild and just all of Constructed, right? But I still think of Hearthstone as more constructed, that just the original version of it. And, Battlegrounds really could have been its own game. Like, if they just put more resources to it, it could be, instead of TFT, it's Battlegrounds, right? And so if they're going to save these game modes for new title releases, I'm cool with that. That's fine. Yeah.
I would have played more Mercenaries if I could have had it up while I was playing Standard.
Sure. Yeah.
So, Doc, what have you been playing in Hearthstone?
So I've been playing a lot of BGs. So I'm almost 5K in BGs. It's been rough from 4,500 to about 5K. I'm like 4,850, I think, right now. And I had another dirty spicy pretzel mustard the other day. And I sent my obligatory screenshot and text message to Daniel, Storm, and Sheldon and apologized because I stole his spicy pretzel mustard from him.
What is that?
And he had did you ask what's that?
Yeah, what is spicy pretzel mustard? What?
So spicy pretzel mustard is the single hardest achievement to obtain in Hearthstone.
Oh, the achievement,
which is winning a game of Battlegrounds with winning every single lobby. Ties nullify the achievement.
Oh, tie. Oh, so perfect. Well, without ties.
Yes,
perfect without ties. Gotcha,
yes, you have to win everything, no ties.
Right. Nice. What was it? What kind of? What kind of?
It was a weird demon comp that just didn't make sense.
Yeah, demon's really good.
But yeah, it was fun. Like,
I think it's technically the second.
I think I tied like the fourth to last combat.
Oh no.
And then I was like, okay, sick. I don't get this now. But I still won. I got like 80 MMR from it.
Nice.
I think it's the second hardest, though. I think the hardest is AFK.
That's fair.
Which one's AFK?
AFK is AFK. The first 2 turns you skip because you have to wait till the third turn.
Oh yeah.
And the achievement is to skip a third turn.
Like once or the entire game?
No. So you skip.
Just in the beginning. Just in the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But you have to win though, right? Or you have to finish top 4.
Yes, you have to you have to win.
You have to win. Wow, that's hard.
Yeah, it's. I don't know what the percentages are, but last I looked, I thought it was harder to get than the spicy pretzel mustard. But I have the AFK one. I don't have spicy pretzel mustard. Grip also has a brand of spicy pretzel mustard he made.
Yes, he does. So
Fred is good.
So Tito, what about you? What have you been doing inside Hearthstone?
So this month I tried to get Legend right off the bat. I'd been playing really well in February, and I'm trying to make a push to actually be a not so scrub Legend player. And I tried to hit it on day 1. I didn't get there, but I got pretty close. I think I hit the D3. I got there on I think the 6th, and I came in around 1,300-ish. And I've been made it this my goal this month to. Normally, I used to hit Legend, and I'd then say, okay, now we're gonna meme. Now we're gonna play other modes. Now we're gonna do whatever. I'll play a few games here, but I'm really trying to fight the decay now. I really want to fix my MMR, so I have played a ton of games, and I'm still gonna decay, and I'm down to about. I think after the last game I just played, I'm at like 25,000. but I've almost gotten back to where I was before, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been challenging. I've been playing some people I know now, which is great. I had a game against Kibler. I lost, but it was still fun. So it's like the goal is to get there and start playing people. I'm like, oh, I'm playing, that person or that person, and we're getting closer, and we're winning. I think I am still above 50% at Legend. It's just the decay is hard to keep up with, but I'm winning, and I'm building up some confidence, even if I don't really feel like I'm building up confidence.
What are you playing?
I am playing Undead Shadow Priest. Because I am not too proud to play one of the best decks in the games.
Yeah, that deck's very powerful.
and someday I may be good enough to just take whatever I want to and bring it into this meta, but today is not that day. In fact, I am scared to change right now because I have so many games. I've probably gotten over 500 games this month logged with that deck. And I'm scared to change because I don't even want to risk like learning something new or readjusting. Until I have to change, I think I'm just going to stick with this for the month and just see what I can do with it.
See, like that's the thing about just grinding a deck, or just tweaking little things like maybe a card or two at a time and just grinding is because like even just with the pros, like I feel like if you grind a specific deck 500 times, you're gonna play that deck better than the pros. Like you can do way more than a deck that a pro would look at and say, oh, there's like these flaws. But because you've played every single scenario and nuance and you know how to handle them and what comes in the future, like, it's really interesting. Like, I don't think pros get a chance to play, that certain decks that many times. They just don't have time, right? So I've always been really fascinated with just, I always think of it like in StarCraft 2, the cannon rusher. Like the person that's the best at cannon rushing would own all the pros. Like just if the first time or even the first 10 times they played them, but then, eventually they would catch up. Right. But that person that's the cannon rushing knows it better than anybody else. So it's always really cool. Like hearing that you played that deck 500 times. Like, that's cool.
Well, it's been a lot of fun too, because excuse me, I'm in the Coin Concede Discord, like I was saying, and we have a channel specifically dedicated to talking about this deck.
Oh,
and
okay.
The different, like, I mean, not like the 30 card deck, but like the general archetype. And I mean, we get discussions like, okay, wait, I'm playing Rogue, and this was my opening hand. Do I mulligan 2 corporals or do I keep one and all that? Because even after playing all these games and collating all our knowledge together, there's still a lot of questions. It's still not as straightforward as some people think it is. There's a lot of nuance, and it's just fun to really kind of dive into it with the community and puzzle out and apply that to my game. So it's been a lot of fun.
Cool. Yeah, sounds great.
So Chan, what have you been doing outside of Hearthstone?
Yeah, so I was working leading a esports startup business called Juked for the last 3 years. Unfortunately, we had to sell Juked and wrap it up this last year. But that journey was a lot of fun. It's been a pretty rough 8 months for startups, just generally speaking. I don't know if you saw all the bank stuff recently, but another hit to the startup industry. But hopefully it's not too bad, given that the government has guaranteed the deposits. But yeah, the last 8 months we just kind of ran into some bad timing in terms of having to raise money, and so we ended up selling the business, but it's great. Juked, I don't know if you guys were familiar, but Juked was a social network for esport fans and eventually gamers, but we were starting with esport fans, and so it was very Twitter like, mixed with chat and mixed with scores. Just we had schedules and scores, and we had a lot of a lot of the information that esport fans need on top of the social aspect. So yeah, worked on that for 3 years, really lived the startup life and founder life and building a business. So just really fun, and watched a lot of esports during that time, obviously, but I didn't watch too much Hearthstone esports just because Hearthstone esports has been I know it's gone through some tough times too. So but yeah.
I mean, did you miss Specialist?
Did I miss? Wait, which special? You mean the guy?
The format?
Yeah. Oh, the format. No, I saw Specialist. Yeah, I caught
okay.
it. Yeah, I caught Specialist.
Okay, I thought you were blessed with the opportunity to miss out
on that. No, I saw that. I saw a little of that, and then I stopped watching it after that.
But we are going to talk all about these esports in a little bit.
Yeah.
Doc, what have you been doing outside the game?
So okay, I kind of have some not like personal drama, but at the beginning of the show, it was like episode 1 through 3, I think. I had announced that I had just moved into this apartment that I'm in. That was because there was this other apartment complex that we were trying to move into. We paid our deposit. We were told a move-in date, and then the move-in date got pushed back. And then we were told, okay, yes, you're gonna be able to move in on this date. And then less than 12 hours before the move-in date got pushed back indefinitely. And then so we moved into where I'm at now. And for 6 months, have been trying to get our deposit back from this place we didn't live in. And we finally got our deposit back. But within the last 72 hours, we found out that the property manager for this apartment complex we were going to go move into got arrested for embezzling $50,000.
Wow.
Yeah. So like crisis averted, but like we thought they were laundering money. Because within this process of trying to get our deposit back, we were told that our check was written, but then it had to get sent to India, and then it would get sent back, and then we would get it.
Was there a prince involved?
I maybe at this point, it's anything could go, I guess. So that's like the big thing. It's just crazy. Like, it kind of made us feel validated that we were correct, that something illegal was going on. It is unfortunate that the people that have lived there have had that happen to them. And I don't know what kind of protections they have, because apparently a lot of them don't have renter's insurance either, which they were supposed to make sure that they had renter's insurance to live there. So there's just a lot of stuff that didn't go right over there. And what's kind of funny is it's literally just across the street from where we're at now. But yeah, so that was wild. And then I work at a financial institution. I work at a local credit union. And we've been getting a lot of questions about like SVB and what that means for our credit union and like all that kind of stuff. And it's just wild. And like banks and credit unions are separate. Yes, they're both tied to the economy, but banks and credit unions have different kinds of like rules and regulations they have to follow, and like different levels of money they're able to insure. And most of the people that were asking us questions wouldn't have to like really worry about like not being able to insure all their money, because with how the NCUA works, sorry, I'm getting bank technical or credit union technical. For every social security number on an account, $250,000 is insured. So if it's a trust with like 4 people on it, that's $1 million that is insured. And so we just have been having a bunch of people who came in today, like asking questions or withdrawing like just thousands and thousands of dollars because they think the financial institutions are going to all collapse overnight. But the effects of SBB and how that's going to affect like other financial institutions, we like won't know for a little bit. So like, yes, it's scary because a big bank went down, and it is unfortunate that the people and companies who had accounts there had that happen to them. But I think we'll be okay for a little bit. Like, I don't think it's full panic mode. Also, just watched the new My Hero Academia episode. I read this chapter of the manga because I'm caught up, and I still cried this entire episode. And my girlfriend, she hasn't read My Hero, but she cried during this episode too. And it's just, if you like anime and you haven't watched My Hero Academia, it's worth it. Like there's a little lull in like season 4 into season 5 with like the pacing of the show, but the storytelling is just so good. So that's what I've been doing outside of Hearthstone.
Somebody must have died, man. I'm guessing somebody died. If it was a tearjerker for your girlfriend too.
No, just
okay.
Friendship is beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I'll say, because I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. Okay. But friendship is beautiful.
Right.
Tito, how about you? What have you been doing outside of Hearthstone?
Mostly just getting ready for fight night. So on Sunday, this Sunday, assuming we get our episode out before Sunday, Doc.
We will.
We have a fight night Hearthstone esport battle match between Just the Guy, who is Cora and Sage's dad from the Hearthstone Team 5, and Blister Guy, who is the host of Walk to Work, the Australian, who you've seen in many delightful card reveal videos. So they are going head to head on my channel, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and they are playing. They have to draft decks that have been provided by different community members. So we had decks that were made by Ridiculous Hat, Funky Monkey, Ben Heastone, the Squelch Podcast, the Blizzlet Podcast, and Cora and Sage also made a deck. So they're going to go in blind, and they have to pick these decks, and they're going to play, and they're going to do a Conquest best of 5. So I'm very excited about that. Me and Dragon Rider are going to be casting that. We have prizes and all that stuff. So that's kind of been my main focus outside of work and, getting another foot of snow tonight and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's about that. But Doc, I think it's about time we get to know our guest a little bit better. So why don't you go ahead and lead us into our interview?
Yeah. So Chanman, for people like myself who may not have been plugged into Hearthstone in the early days, can you tell us a little about who you are?
Yeah, sure. I think probably best to talk about, my history in Hearthstone. Got in Hearthstone just in the early days. I actually wasn't part of the first day of beta. I think I got on either second or third day because I never played card games before. So I was just like, oh, Hearthstone, I got these beta keys. I'm just like, whatever. Right. But prior to that, I was doing podcasts. So I was pretty well known for being a podcaster in the early days of Twitch and
so let's talk about that before we get too much into Hearthstone. Like, how did you even get into gaming and podcasting and Twitch in the first place?
Yeah, so gaming, I've just been a gamer all my life. All the way until I'm pretty old. I'm like almost you're probably a little older than me, Tito. But played in television in Atari all the way, until now. So played just everything. But I would say like the heyday was like in college. I was probably pro level Warcraft 2 player. There weren't very many people, but I was definitely one of the best US players during that time. And I kind of got burnt out from that, so I didn't play too much Brood Wars. So was kind of taking a break, just doing college. And then StarCraft 2 came around, so that's when I really got back into esports and ended up like getting coaching too, just to get better at StarCraft 2. And then I ended up recording these things and then just streaming it in the early days, like on live stream, where streaming before Twitch, before Justin, and where it was like really, really hard to stream. It was just like me and Day9 and just a bunch of others, tiny, streamers, but Day9 was huge at the time. And then eventually, I think Mr. Bitter had this like something, what was it, 12 days or 10 days with the pros, where he would get these really famous StarCraft 2 pros and coach them. And he ended up getting hired by ESL, so he stopped doing that. So I ended up like getting the idea to do that show. So I ended up starting that. It was, very rough in the beginning. This is like kind of building or just adding to a card in your garage type of thing. And eventually I ended up creating Pro Corner, which ended up being my first show in StarCraft 2. And that turned into like another show and podcast called Climbing the Ladder, where I had a bunch of CEOs and team owners and stuff to talk about business of esports. And this is all in the StarCraft 2 days. And then Hearthstone came out, right? And then that's when I decided to, that's play Hearthstone. I really loved it. It was super passionate. So I started Value Town, which is the podcast that I had. And Crip was my co-host and Trump was my co-host. So we were doing that for a while. But over the time, I think Value Town had Ali and Jackie Chan and Raynat. I had a lot of different co-hosts like during that time. But I think that's what most of the Hearthstone community has known myself. And So I think Tito, especially, like I know you followed Valley Town for a while too. So if I remember correctly, right, if my memory is,
no,
yeah. But
absolutely,
yeah. So done podcasts. I was doing podcasts for a long time, but then I decided to kind of take a step back from content making and really get back into just more entrepreneurship. And so I was working at Hearthstone and HS Deck Tracker for a while, for like a year, and then I decided to start Juked with Ben, and so we've been on that journey for the last few years.
How did you and Ben decide to make a company?
So me and Ben have been friends for like, 10 years, 11 years, kind of met at an esport event when he was working at Twitch. And, we've talked about the idea of just creating a centralized place for esport fans, like an ESPN.com. And that's what the first iteration of Juked was. Like Juke.gg was basically a portal, for esport fans. You could find just any day you go to Juke.gg and you would see what the top esports streams and events that were going on, like on the front page, like people use it as their like third monitor type of, thing all day long. So that was great. Just knowing where the schedules are instead of having to go to Wikipedia and all these, other community sites. It was all in one place for like 25 esports. So we always had he had that idea. Actually, Ben had tried to do it a couple times in the past, but then the timing kind of opened up for both of us. Like he was finally not with Twitch anymore, and then I was kind of in between gigs, and so we decided to start it. At that point, it's the right time for us to really start this venture and see what we can do with it.
It must have been exciting and scary at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was my first time like going through a startup where raising VC money, it just being a venture-backed startup versus being more of a bootstrapped kind of startup. So definitely my first time going through fundraising and whatnot. Very, very different type of experience. Those two different paths of trying to build a company. But I think we ran into some of the, like I kind of mentioned before, we ran into some of the bad luck in terms of what can happen, if you can't raise any money. But I think it was still really rewarding and gratifying because we did change some people's lives. If our community that we unfortunately, had to leave behind, or not leave behind, but at least had to stop with they still exist today in our Discord. And, these people met so many more people in the community because of it. And really, I think we really did grow their fandom. That was really what our vision and our core mission was to grow fandom, of esports and really have just more connections, really cultivate the connections so that engagement could grow, for esports.
Well, and it sounds like it wasn't just you tried, you started, you failed. I mean, or not failed, you shut down. But like you guys rose pretty high and had some really good success. Do you want to talk a little bit about the high points?
Yeah, I mean, we had about where did we end up? Like I'm trying to think of with our mobile app. We ended up with like 17,000 users or 20,000 users. Awesome. And our engagement numbers were actually quite strong. I think that what really hit us was that we were pre-revenue. We were really trying to, just be focused on growth just because we followed more of that model, which like looking back on it, we probably should have tried to monetize because I think that's what a lot of VCs are looking for these days. But our engagement numbers were strong. And, we really just had the worst timing. I mean, we were, we started to raise money in May, and that's literally when the war started. The recession was starting to hit, and Terra crashed. The entire crypto space crashed. So going through that, I mean, it just became like polar ice caps in terms of just the VC, just the VC space. And so they were more really going internal, just really trying to make sure their portfolio companies, survive this period. And, so we really ran into that and had a hard time with trying to find a lead investor. So again, those like 17,000 users, I feel like given the numbers, I mean, they really did enjoy the product, and we tried to talk to as many as possible, and they really did feel like it was an important part of their daily lives, using Juked, and that's all I can ask for, it's in terms of building a product.
Yeah, I read the article that Ben wrote, kind of to sum up the and I thought it was very, very interesting.
Yeah. Learned a lot. I think that in the end, it's just like, just you're gonna have success, you're gonna have failures, but as long as you learn a ton from your failures, I think, it's always going to benefit you, especially in your, what I decide to do next. Which trying to decide right now, like I'm not in a hurry, but really trying to figure out where I want to put my energies and passion, something that I really feel will benefit the world or the community that I care about, and be just something I can really get a lot of enjoyment out of.
Speaking of the community, you're still doing, I believe, Streamer Showdown, right? Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Streamer Showdown was this game show that I've always kind of done as a side hustle, or again, just like my car in the garage. I'll just add something to it or here and there. But it's a game show that I've been doing that we built a web app and a platform that facilitates the entire UI element of it. It's really a mini game. It's like a mini Jackbox that's really tailored for different communities. So we've done Hearthstone versions of Streamer Showdown, like in the day at BlizzCon, and just online, and we'll have like very specific decks, deck type of segments, where or we used to have a card one where you would have to choose, like there would be something wrong with one of the cards, you have to choose, but we would have like a bunch of different game segments. But anyways, like Streamer Showdown is this game show that I do in all of various communities whenever I have time. So I've had some time recently, so I've been doing some hard Overwatch ones. I did one with VShojo, just the VTubers. So V Showdown I did with them, and then hopefully I'm doing a Valorant one soon. I did a Hearthstone one with Hat like maybe a year ago. I think maybe we did one like a year or two ago, which was super fun too. Like I remember we were doing the battlegrounds, who's going to win this. we would show like a video of a battlegrounds, like before, just what the lineup would look like before they would fight, and then we'd let the contestants like bet their points as to which side would win. That was actually really fun. But yeah, so I've been doing that just because I've had more time, and really contemplating whether I want to do that, just really go deeper with Streamer Showdown and see if I can maybe make the best game show on Twitch or something like that, but haven't decided yet.
So do you think that with what's different on this card and the kind of things you're doing there, do you think Raren stole your bit?
Who? Sorry, I haven't really. Is he doing that now? I don't even know. Yeah.
Oh no. He is an excellent content creator. We love Raren.
Okay, cool.
He does have some of those where it's like, okay, tell me what's wrong with this card.
Yeah, so that's cool. No, I mean, obviously, I'm huge advocate and supporter of other content makers, so that's really, really cool. Yeah, whether he got it or not, it's definitely a fun thing that the community really enjoys.
Well, Doc, you have any other questions for Chanman before we go to dinner?
Yeah, I think that's all of. Oh, actually, do you have any future projects planned?
Yeah, so I like right now, like I was kind of saying, like I've had a number of people approach me with different projects, and haven't really decided on whether to really go full out with them or just maybe more of just advising and consulting. But I would say right now, nothing other than I would say the different game shows and Streamer Showdowns that I want to do. I'd like to do more like a game show in the different communities, so I want to do one in Valorant. I've been trying to get one together for Pokemon too, trying to see if I can, get one into that community. Anime is always a big one. So Doc, you might, we've done an anime one before, but,
awesome.
With VShojo actually, but so I was maybe might have something at one of the anime, conferences or shows, in the summer.
So with the Pokemon one, would it be the Pokemon video game or the trading card game?
I would like it to just be generally the IP, so okay. Yeah, I'd like it to just be everything, but more I would say proper than specifically the game or Go or anything like that. So that's what I was thinking, but it could obviously work with the card game, and exactly what we do with the Hearthstone we could probably do with Pokemon. We've done Magic, like I've probably done like 15 or 20 episodes. Like at one point, Wizard of the Coast, we had a 10 episode season. that we did with.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so we did 10. We did 10 with them at one point, which was super fun, and we had like just a bunch of who's in the community. That was a lot. And I don't even know that much about Magic, so it was really interesting, like having to really coordinate the logistics for that, the writing the questions and everything with some different people. But in the end, I learned a ton about Magic, and it was super. The community is amazing. So yeah, like it might be fun to get the Hearthstone one going again too. Just with some of the old friends that I have still in Hearthstone. But yeah, so probably see more streamer showdowns and game shows. And I just think that there's still a big opportunity for game shows. Like I don't see people doing them regularly. And the community loves them. Like every time we do them, they really have a great time, and the people that participate have a good time. So, yeah, I mean, that's why I continue trying to push that.
Well, it does seem like people are less interested in gameplay content nowadays, and they're more interested in adjacent content.
Yeah.
Like people like reviewing cards. People like talking about where did Firebat go? People like talking about things like that more than they care about like watching you play a game of Hearthstone. And like people put up those vids and they don't do as well as they used to, unless you're like a Tice or a Crip or something like that. People want engagement in the game that isn't just the same thing as, hey, look at me play the game. So I think that there's a wide open space for things like game shows.
Yeah, and people love to just like feel smart too. So, like you've been playing Hearthstone for 10 years or not 10 years, but almost 10 years, right? 9 years.
Their 9-year anniversary was yesterday.
Yeah. I remember I tweeted too about that. But so 9 years, you just like to feel smart when you know something that maybe some of the, streamers or influencers don't know. It makes everybody at home feel good.
Well, fantastic. Well, why don't we get into our main topic today, which we were going to talk about the rise and the fall of esports. I couldn't think of a better person to have a conversation with about this.
Yeah.
So what attracted you to esports, and what particular games kind of drew you in? I think it sounds like StarCraft, but was that where it really started, or?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that like the kind of like huge I kind of aha or just like super passionate was StarCraft 2. I did follow it back in the Quake days, like Fatality and even just Thresh, when he first won the car and everything. But I would say that, just true esport fan, it was probably StarCraft 2, just back in the 2010 when MLG was huge and just EG was huge and all that. So what got me into it, just had something to do with being a gamer, as well as the community not being big. So it's just kind of like, it's really cool to be part of a scene that's super early and competitive. You can just kind of see the future. Like I'm a huge sports fan too, so I really could see the dynamic of both, and where this was headed if it was guided, correctly, where this could be. And it was super exciting, like this is the day and age of Twitch and streaming. I mean, esports was what made Twitch what it is today. Like if it wasn't for esports, Twitch may never have grown or survived, to quite honestly. So yeah, esports was super exciting. I mean, still super exciting to me, but back then the community was so tight and it was just like, just really, really fun and great to be part of.
Yeah, it's fun to think about. If we don't have StarCraft, we don't have Amaranth, right?
That's an interesting connection, but I guess that you could say that, yeah.
Well, I just mean like you like the esports built Twitch, and if it's not, if it becomes this big platform, then you don't get the side platforms, the hot tubs, the
it's maybe YouTube would have been huge if it wasn't for that. Yeah, she would be on YouTube instead. Yeah,
probably. So when do you think esports really hit its peak?
I don't think it's hit its peak yet, but if you're talking about to date,
thus far,
I would say 2 years ago. I mean, in terms of just like PC esports, I would say 2 years ago. I think mobile esports is still like a juggernaut, like a hidden juggernaut that has not been revealed yet. Just given just the number of potential fans and users of, just gamers, right? Just mobile gamers. that it should dwarf everything we've seen, in esports. It's just we haven't quite gotten there yet with it. I mean, we have to really get there with PC first before I think the mobile esports will be able to follow suit in terms of the developers and the leagues and everything. But I would say like about 2 years ago, I think COVID hurt quite a bit. COVID really set things back in terms of just all the live events, just 0 live events one entire year. I mean, that's going to set you back. I mean, it killed a lot of organizations that were going from event to event, especially in Smash. Like those events don't make that much money to begin with. So whenever you miss one, it's devastating to that community. So yeah, I think 2019 was probably the peak so far, and we're kind of recovering from COVID at this point. And I don't think we've gotten there. I mean, I think CSGO is still super healthy, and I think League is dropping. I mean, I think League is fallen from its peak, especially LCS. LCS is way lower than it before. And, Overwatch and Call of Duty, they're all kind of, lower than they were. So it's really only CSGO that's been healthy and continuing, just the levels that we've seen.
And then have you seen the NVIDIA leak?
NVIDIA League for
CSGO 2.
Oh, CSGO 2. Yeah. I've seen the leak. Oh, I thought you said League.
My bad.
Yeah. So I saw that. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a interesting decision. Like part of me doesn't think that CSGO needs anything. Like I think CSGO is it's a little bit analogous to sports where it's where it doesn't need to change. Like I think CSGO is in a great spot in terms of the esport, and just everything has been tweaked for 10, 15 years now. And it's a beautiful esport, quite honestly. I still think StarCraft 2 is the most beautiful in my mind, even though there's just not a lot of people playing StarCraft 2. But in terms of an esport, I feel like it's still the best one in my mind. But CSGO is right there too. Like from FPS, it's not even close in my opinion. So
since we're talking about RTSs a bit, did you ever play Age of Empires 2?
Yeah, great game.
So have you seen the resurgence of Age 2 esports?
Yeah. I mean, we've even tried to support some of the community when we were doing Juke.gg. So really healthy community. It's not huge, obviously, but it's not small either. It's like tens of thousands of people still watching,
and they're all incredibly loyal.
Yeah, and
it is amazing.
Exactly. I mean, StarCraft's kind of there too, at this point. But yeah, it's a shame that there's just not more. Like we haven't gotten there yet where there's an audience for a game that people don't play. You know what I mean? Like the esport can really, or the sport or esport, or whatever you want to call it, can really grow without having that player base. It's understandable. You kind of have to have this accessibility element to it, but at the same time, like they're so good. I mean, Age of Empire 2 is, even those matches and whatnot are fun to watch. As long as you know the game.
Yep.
Well, the quickest. Okay, ahead, Doc.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, there's a Age of Empires 2 going on like for like the next 2 weeks in Germany.
Yeah.
It's I forget what it's called. I just remember that T90 official, who is like one of the most prominent casters for Age of Empires 2 tournaments, he's in Germany for like 2 weeks doing this like team tournament over there, and the production setup for it looks absolutely incredible and insane. And they have like Red Bull Wololol and Hidden Cup, and there's a bunch, and it's just. Sorry, I'm a huge H2 fan, so
that's good. That's great. Yeah,
you would have liked Juke GG. Yeah, the quickest way to kill an esport though is to have Garrett and Kyle do a podcast about it.
Garrett and Kyle like follow esports. Since when?
No.
Like
I'm not. No, Garrett and Kyle.
I know.
Garrett
I know. But when? Okay. Since when did they follow esports? I mean, I love those guys. Those guys are awesome. But I'm just saying.
They had the podcast. They had the Starcast podcast, and they had the Hots podcast, and
true. I feel like they're more known for their just more of the gameplay discussion, and just how more so than esports. But that's true. Yeah, with HOTS, I think specifically, it's too bad for HOTS. Like I feel like that game could have, had more potential if they would have just gotten to it earlier and supported it more, because they had a strong community too. Like that community was super tight knit.
Mm-hmm.
When they announced that game, I thought it was like, when they said it was originally called Blizzard All Stars.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a Super Smash Brothers kind of
Blizzard
All Stars game.
It was originally, but then
was it really?
Then they decided to. Yeah, I mean, the fighting game I think the original idea, but then they switched to a MOBA pretty quickly after that. So I don't know if they'll ever do a fighting game, but yeah, it should have worked. I mean, like, how can Blizzard property with so many different, beloved heroes not work in a MOBA? Like, I don't understand how it didn't work, to a degree where you would have a game that you could make money off of. So they really screwed up there. Like they really should have had a successful game there.
Well, one thing you mentioned too is that COVID really kind of it took its toll on esports. But I initially had thought that it was an opportunity for esports, because with real sports being on hiatus and being able to do esports remotely in a lot of ways, I think that if they had really pivoted in a way to monopolize on that, and maybe even get more into like the gambling scene, because obviously gambling kind of makes the sports world go round on some levels. Like, I thought they could have really pivoted into a way where we were watching CSGO matches on ESPN2, and also being able to get to DraftKings and bet on who's going to win. And I thought there was a real opportunity for a resurgence there, but that just never materialized.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point, because I think there were moments of opportunity and moments of success, during COVID, because everything was online. In fact, with DraftKings, we were talking to DraftKings and some of the like FanDuel and at one point, trying to work with them. And I know during that time when sports were just completely shut down, I mean, the only thing that their users could play fantasy on or pick daily fantasy was League of Legends. Like, literally, that was the only thing. And that, I remember those were some record numbers for them just in terms of League of Legends. But once football and everything started up, then they just went to the wayside. But yeah, in terms of the events, I mean, I think that some of the, like, Riot, I think, was able to salvage stuff. I don't think Blizzard handled COVID very well, especially OWL. Like, I think it was a little bit late in terms of figuring out what to do. It wasn't until more like 2021 that they figured out something. So it really just depended on when, Valorant, I think Valorant actually, did some good things during that time, and where it's at right now, I think it may be predicated on that. But overall, I think that not having the live events, like the next step, especially like for something like Overwatch League, the next step was having live events at geolocations, right? Like at the cities, and having that, I mean, that was really what was going to take, Call of Duty League and Overwatch League to the next level. And that just, completely went to the wayside. And unfortunately, there's an aftermath to that too. Like, I think you see those two leagues, and I don't know if it's recoverable, to be honest, like where they are. They're just trying to just salvage anything at this point. And unfortunately, that sets them so far back from the original vision that it may not be possible anymore. So yeah, like, I think in that Smash, Smash are all live events. I mean, like, you can't even play Smash, like, right? So those really got hurt. So the overall scene itself, even though some of them were still able to have events, the overall scene took a pretty big hit.
And do you think that's why a lot of companies are pulling back their esports programs? They just feel they're too much of a liability, or?
I mean, partially, but the main issue with esports right now is that, it's really monetization. Like engagement and monetization. Like the engagement, everybody kind of measures engagement by viewership, but viewership isn't true engagement. Like an engaged person is somebody that goes and buys a Hearthstone pack, like literally pays $2 and like that's a person that's engaged, not a person that just like watches for free on Twitch. Right. And so esports hasn't figured that out completely yet, like what the best way to monetize is, because ads and sponsorships, like they're not enough. I mean, we had to rely on crypto, and when FTX crashed and everything else crashed, I mean, that went to the wayside too. Like then you had to go to the Saudi Arabian government, to really have some of these things, be sponsored and whatnot. So that the level of brands that are sponsoring, with the amount of money that esports needs, you can just see that the engagement levels do not match what the growth, the crazy amount of money and growth that came into esports like 3 to 5 years ago, really warranted. Like when 5 years ago, esports was like the hottest thing, right? And everybody, like all these VCs were investing into esports, and all these companies hired a ton of people and tried to grow, right? Start all these leagues and everything. But in the end, they didn't really figure out the most fundamental thing, which is like, how do you actually, make money off of these fans as you're growing the fans? Like you can't just, inorganically grow it and then not, and have that kind of monetization follow, or at least the revenue follow. So that's kind of where I think we are with esports right now. It needs to contract because the growth doesn't match the actual revenue. And that means the engagement level isn't what it should be, just given what the numbers are, or it's inflated, however you want to, say it, right? Like the numbers could be inflated depending on, just Newzoo, right? Newzoo was what everybody was using. And now, Newzoo's gone because, and I think everybody kind of knew Newzoo was always a little bit inflated. So, yeah, I think that it's more of a fundamental issue. It's just like we need to kind of contract esports a bit so that we're a size that matches the engagement and monetization level, and then we grow it from there. You know what I mean? Like once it's making the amount of money that it should be making, like just those numbers match, then I think at that point you really infuse a bunch of money and you grow it. But we just kind of skipped a step there. Like we're trying to, Overwatch League especially, it never even proved that it could make money before we started Overwatch League, right? Like, that was never even proved. So that's a common thing, unfortunately, in esports.
Well, I think in a lot of places, esports was a sunk cost. It was a advertisement. It's like get people.
Well, that's a problem too. That for me, that's a problem too. But go ahead. Sorry, right, because I didn't mean to interrupt you. Yeah.
Oh, no problem. So I think what happened was in the case of COVID, esports kind of died out for a little bit or regressed because these live events were getting canceled, and the bean counters were saying, "Hey, we're not seeing any loss in revenue because people are still playing our games, because even though we don't have the esports, and esports was costing us so much money, so why are we still doing esports?" And I think that's one of the contributing factors to why we've seen kind of such a pullback from esports as well.
Well, I mean, they're still doing. I mean, I don't think anything's changed from a developer standpoint. They still think of esports as marketing. It's part of their marketing budget, and that's how they warrant spending the money on esports. I think the issue is for esports, like being so tied closely with the developers. Developers having a different agenda for esports has not helped esports, really mature and develop and really grow the way it should have grown. They benefit every time somebody, buys the game or buys a skin or buys a pack or whatever it is. But esports doesn't get anything from that. Like the teams don't get anything from that when Blizzard makes money off of skins, or, Riot makes money off of, a new agent coming out and is being promoted in VCT. You know what I mean? Like that indirectness doesn't even go to the teams. So that's a bit of an issue too, because like the developers are too integrated into esports, and they have a different agenda for esports than it operating on its own. Like esports being its own entity, and it being a unit that generates its own large revenue, and is its own industry and business. It's not that right now. It's too tied to gaming, and then indirectly, then that's why streamers are bigger. That's why streamers are having more success than actual esport players. I mean, there's all of the, like these dynamics that happen because of, at the root, there's this misalignment, in terms of esports and the developers.
Do you think a big problem is that companies run their own esports, and those esport venues should be run by either, grassroots programs or secondary programs or community programs.
Yeah, let's put it to you this way: it's not a coincidence that CS:GO is doing the best, because Valve doesn't run any of that stuff. Like, Valve is very hands off of their esports, right? Riot's the opposite, right? And Riot's had success too doing the opposite, but I think Riot does have more of a commitment to the esport itself versus trying to use it as marketing. But CS:GO, I think, is the most stable. Like, I feel like CS:GO doesn't have franchising, right? It doesn't have this type of at times you could say that that's not a true representation of like just immediately how much revenue is it making, right? Franchising is like more of a for the future type of thing, right? And kind of building towards what we've seen in sports. But CS:GO, ESL and Blast and those, they're making revenue right now. Like they have sponsors, and they're seeing that revenue right now. And so whether they're making a lot of money or not is a different story. But I think that in general, these ESLs and these Blasts, they're not the developer, right? And they're able to have a sustaining business that you don't see in the other esports. Like, the teams are the only other entities, and the teams are at the mercy of the the leagues and the developers at this point.
There was one esport that I think did a pretty decent job. It still wasn't great, it still wasn't perfect, but with being able to put money into their esport was the Halo Championship Series during Halo 5. Because there was these things called rec packs, which had in-game items that you could use for one of the game modes, I forget which, but then that money was put into the prize pool for each of their big events. And so the more money the fans paid to buy these rec packs, the bigger the prize pool got. And Hearthstone tried to do something similar too for a couple of their events.
They didn't try to do that. They did that, and they were successful. And we ate that shit up right away. And the fact that they capped it, and the fact that they haven't continued to monetize that was a problem. And I bet you the problem is they didn't want to give that money to the esports. If they're going to be selling those packs, they wanted to keep it.
Exactly, right? And that's what I mean, right? Like, there's a different agenda and different budget and different objectives that need to be made by the game, the game company and the game division, right? More so than it is from the esport division. Like in Hearthstone, for instance, right? It's not a coincidence that even the esports has always had to answer to the dev team, the design team, which I always thought was weird, right? It's like the esports team should just be operating on its own, and why do you have to answer? Why do you, the rules, whatever rules you have for your esports, why do you have to get that confirmed by the designers? That's insane, to me. So I used to always butt heads with some of those people, but yeah, with Halo, just this kind of rev sharing. This hasn't been a secret. The Internationals has done it successfully for how many years now, right? They pay for everything in that event and make, revenue on top of that, millions of dollars of revenue on top of that. And, raise the prize pool, 50% of that raises the prize pool, right? So
yep.
It's already been proven. It's just, I don't know why these companies just don't spend more time honing that, developing that, and just doing it. They just stop doing it after they try it one time. So, yeah, Halo. Halo has a really solid 343. They're just really bad about supporting their game. I don't know if it's because they're tiny at this point, but when they released, just the latest Halo, a lot of people were excited about it, and I think it had an uptick, but then all of a sudden there was just no events after that.
Yep. And then they were slow on the balancing of weapons.
Yeah,
a lot of
terrible.
A lot of their pro players were not griefing, but expressing their frustrations out on Twitter. One of my favorite players, Spartan, he has one of the best comeback stories. He is extremely vocal about how he feels about Halo, to the point where other Halo esport fans start giving him a lot of grief because they're like, yo, you're talking bad about your job. He's like, I care about this. I'm being objective because I have to.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just, it was just sad. Like, I'm a huge Halo fan. Like, I played Halo ever since I was in first grade and have played it forever. And Halo 4 is one of my favorite video games of all time, even though that one's on in the Halo community is one of the ones that people like to pick on. But there's so much potential there, and
a lot of people came from Halo too. Like some of the people that you see today, whether it's the casting talent or even some of the players. I mean, they came from Halo, so there's a lot of people disappointed. I mean, a lot of people were disappointed, a year ago, and even just us at Juked, we wanted to make a play for Halo. Like when Halo Infinite came out, right? Like we were like, okay, this is a great time to really support Halo and just support that small community, and hopefully 343 doesn't drop the ball. Unfortunately, they just completely dropped the ball. Like didn't like you said, didn't patch their game, and there were just barely any events too. They did sell skins though. Like they definitely did a good, that was great because I know teams like Space Station, they made good revenue off of that. So that was smart. But they, in terms of their esport, team and resources, they just didn't have it. So that's unfortunate. That's not the only game that's like that, but that's definitely one that had a lot of potential and have lots of people that came from it that would go back to it if it was better than it is right now.
Now at Juke, you covered a lot of you covered the esports. Did you guys ever consider maybe running an esport?
Running an esport? What do you mean by running it? Like creating
creating the tournaments and events.
Yeah,
and maybe being the go-to place for a particular game.
Yeah, we definitely thought about it, but it's too hard to get into existing, big esports. So we dabbled on it a little bit with Diabolical when it was kind of coming out, but Diabolical didn't end up becoming a big game at all. And but we were more focused on trying to, just from a product standpoint, just more trying to create that killer tool, right, for the esport fan. The place that esport fans go every single day, multiple times a day. That's what we're really trying to focus on. But eventually we would have. Eventually, if that, we got to the point, we would, we were sponsoring events. I mean, we would love to just, done more events. We did a couple Rocket League events. We did a couple Diabolical events. Like we were probably one of the only Diabolical events ever, probably. But we had all the the top, some of the top Quake players played in that. But overall, yeah, I mean, that would have probably been a next phase of Juked if we, just kind of got past the first phase.
So just to wrap up this conversation, earlier on, I asked you where the peak of Hearthstones was, and you said,
Hearthstone?
Sorry, not Hearthstone, not Hearthstone. I'm sorry, esports. Where the peak of esports was, and you said we don't think we've reached it yet. So, where do you think the future of esports is headed? And you sound like you're hopeful and optimistic.
So I think what the future looks like is I think it's going to contract like this next year. I think 2023 you'll see a contraction. Like more teams will fail, and just you'll see some more even tournament organizers probably shut down too. And it'll come down to just like the ones that can kind of last through this period, partially because of recession, partially because of just just the flaws in esport. But I think once that the smoke clears from that, I think you'll start to see esports probably like Valorant. I feel like Riot is, I don't know, League of Legends just feels like it's lost its luster. It's almost like it's considered an old game in Riot internally at this point. Project X is going to come out soon, right? Like the fighting game. So I wouldn't be surprised if even the fighting game eventually ends up being prioritized, more than League, in the next 5 years or something. But I see Valorant probably getting to the level of League. I see mobile. I think mobile esports, again, it's just like a juggernaut. I mean, we already see some of the top viewed events in esports, the top 5 viewed events in esports, 3 of them are mobile. And people just don't know that here in the US. It's just in Asia, everybody is all over the mobile esports and mobile games. And
I mean, I got a phone.
Yeah, I mean, I do too. But like people would rather play, people are a little bit highbrow. They're just like, oh guys, playing CS:GO on a phone or playing PUBG on a phone, or whatever it is, right? It's like no, it's like I use my mouse. Well, there's a lot of people in in India and in Philippines or whatever that can't afford a PC, so they play on their phones, right? So I think just the pure numbers just dwarf PC. I mean, it's just like 4x PC. So you can imagine the esport, like esport's going to be somewhere along the lines of that. So I think that's probably the future. It's just some mobile title is going to really crush it. And it's probably going to crush it in Asia first. Like instead of having everything kind of start here in the West, something's going to, I think, start in the East and maybe spread over to the West. Like I wouldn't be surprised it changes dynamics like that.
I doubt it's going to be Warcraft. What is it? ArcLight?
No,
ArcLight Rumble.
I don't think it'll.
Rumble. That's right.
So admittedly, I did try to get into Blaze Blue.
Oh yeah, Blaze Blue is fun. Blaze Blue is a lot of fun. Yeah,
I had a couple people in that used to be members of Swogoi Gaming play Blaze Blue and convinced me into playing it, and it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the time I played it, but with Hearthstone at the time, like consuming every second of my gaming life, I just couldn't put forth the energy I needed to pursue Blaze Blue. But it's a fun one.
Yeah, Blaze Blue is great. Like Blaze Blue is definitely a lot of fun. I still think there's a place for, I don't know if Hearthstone exactly in its current state, but there's still a way more competitive, just competitive card games that we TCGs, whatever, like we still have not tapped. Like it needs to be modernized. I don't think it's Snap. Like I don't think it's anything like that. I think we can still do something that's like close to Hearthstone, but just
I don't think
better
I don't think we're done with Hearthstone. I don't think we're done with Hearthstone. I know officially it's going away, but I still think there's a thriving community there that has a hunger for the sport. And I think we'll see it rebuild itself in some way.
Yeah, it just, gosh, I wish I could design it like what it would be, but it's not Conquest, like it's not those type of formats or Specialists or whatever it is, right? Like there has to be drafting involved in it. But it has to be not so random either. It has to be like drafting with I don't know, just more of a pool, like a drafting where people can have different perspectives. Not everybody has the same perspective. Like in terms of, point of view of what's good, right? Like
if you want to peek into what that looks like, tune in 10 o'clock Sunday.
Okay,
where we have a draft of a event.
What's so funny is that I did that one time with a show match like a long time ago, and it was so fun. It was like, we did like this snake kind of drafting thing, and then they would go against each other. They would pick the class, right? It would be like you pick a class, it gets eliminated, right? And then they would do that, and then they would draft like each time. But I would record the drafting, pre-record the drafting, right? And the play would happen live, like whenever they actually play each other. But I would pre-record all the drafting, and that was like super fun in itself. Just like I think the drafting was like better content than the actual playing was, because we know how everybody plays Hearthstone. So the drafting was more exciting. So it'd be awesome to see some of that again.
A lot of times it's more fun to draft your arena deck than it is to actually play the games.
Yeah, and just seriously, right? Like there used to be. I mean, was it Hearthstone Deck Tracker, or there were the drafters that people would just do for fun. Like So that was a lot of. I remember doing.
So those. Chanman, have you got to look at Bazaar at all?
Raynat's game. I haven't seen it in a while. I mean, I definitely was part of the Kickstarter for it, so I would get all these updates for it, but I haven't seen an update in a long time, so I haven't really seen it recently. Is it finally out? Is it out?
It's supposedly coming out in 2023, if I remember correctly.
Oh my goodness, I don't know.
Soon, TM.
I don't know why he's taking so long. Like, there's nothing he's adding. Like, he's just constantly changing it. That's all he's doing. He's just like it's like it's like creep at this point. He's just constantly trying to, like, he just needs to release it, and then
sometimes you just gotta stop and just let it out.
Yeah. Totally feature creeping that thing right now. Or I don't know what he's doing. Like, I'm not even sure it's coming out. Let's just put it that way, because it's taken him so long to get it out. I thought it was ready like 3 years ago, something like that.
How hard is it to make a children's card game?
Exactly, right. No, I mean, I thought it was actually decent looking even 3 or 4 years ago, and then he still didn't release it. Like, I don't, I think Andre might, or Reynad just might enjoy the process of making a game. It's fun. It's fun, really fun making a game. It's really not fun or really hard to make it a popular game. You can have a really good game that's not popular, right? Like you could absolutely. It's just really hard, difficult to get it going. And I think he might, I don't know, be getting stuck there.
And a lot of times, that's been the same with everything, right? Like HOTS wasn't first to market. Like you had a lot of MMORPGs that weren't Warcraft because they were first to market. And once you can have the best game in the world, and if you can't get eyeballs on it, it doesn't matter because people have sunk cost into all the games that they currently play. And if you're not that, then it's easy you have to be that much better in order to pull people away from those games that they have kind of tied their existence to.
Yeah, I agree. And, to be honest, I do think that it is time for there to be some innovation to this genre too. I think Snap is I kind of consider the way I look at Snap is it's what Artifact probably should have been. The 3-lane, just Hearthstone feeling, with Broad and the crew building it like that. But that's what Artifact should have been. I just don't like the 3-lane thing. I'm not a huge fan of the 3-lane thing. And so
you want 5 lanes, we understand.
Yeah, opposite. I just want 1 lane. But so I don't think it's that either. I feel like there is some step forward that needs to be done with these cards because I think that we've already started moving away from just Magic in terms of just having these digital card games, but I think we need to take it maybe one step further. Have some more interactions on these cards, or it's not just a card, but there's some kind of interactions you can do alongside it too. I think that's when it would get kind of cool, and it wouldn't be just whatchamacallit, Clash Royale. It's not quite like Clash Royale either, but it's something closer to Hearthstone, but just with an added interaction, that you can do that's not card related. You can actually, it's more video game-ish, that you can meld the two. I think that'd be pretty cool. But I don't know what that is off the top of my head. I'm just throwing thoughts out. But I do think that just timing wise, it's about time. 9 years of Hearthstone. We really haven't seen something take this genre to the next level. It's time. It's time for somebody to do something innovative here.
Agreed. Hey, Doc, you have any other final questions for our guest before we move on to the next segment?
I am all questioned out.
Good questions.
Well, I think I'm ready for a little dessert.
Nice.
Doc?
Yeah. So you can find me on Twitter and Twitch at Doc McButt. Tito?
Well, I was setting you up to ask Chanman, but Chanman, where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at ChanmanV and YouTube. Everything's ChanmanV. So you can follow me there.
How about Streamer Showdown? Where can they go to get updates on that?
Streamer Showdown, everything Streamer Showdown, like Twitch, .tv, Streamer Showdown, and YouTube as well. The only thing that's not Streamer Showdown is Twitter because it's too many characters. It's Stream Showdown. So follow there, and you'll be able to see when the next show is coming pretty soon. So definitely
fantastic.
Follow.
Can you give us any hints on what's coming or?
We'll have an Overwatch one in pretty soon, and our very first Valorant one in a few weeks, like 3 weeks. So
okay,
yeah, if you're into Valorant or Overwatch, definitely check those out. Actually, we have a VTube one, a VShojo on April Fools too. So.
Oh, very nice. And you can find me on Twitter and Twitch at Tito Santana HS. How about Chanman? You got any shout outs you'd like to give out tonight?
No, just big thanks to you guys having me on. It's always fun being a guest on a podcast versus hosting. It's still have to get used to that at times. So I really appreciate it, and keep up the good work on this podcast, and I really have a special place in my heart for this media, just for this genre and media. So, I wanted to continue on, especially in a community I love like Hearthstone. So good job, guys.
Thank you. Well, if if it makes you feel any better, you are still ranked higher than Blizzlet in some of the rankings. So every once in a while, Storm Rage will wonder why a show that hasn't happened in 4 years can still be so highly ranked.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And maybe I should do a reunion one of these days. I don't know.
That would break Hearthstone Twitter and podcasting.
There's a new set about to be released. If you and you picked up Trump SC and Grip and got there and
Trump been up to these. What has he been up to these days? I pop on Crip's stream every once in a while, but I haven't seen Trump in a while. So he's still doing his thing.
I've seen like some of his YouTube videos. He's just playing a bunch of different stuff and being Trump,
same old Trump. Okay, cool.
Yep.
I watched him in a chess tournament. It was like a blitz, and he got to the he's always looking for the value, but he got to the end and they were like just about out of time, and he played his mind out. It was so fun to watch. He's a very, very, very smart individual.
Yeah. No, that's Trump's always, he's always good at all kinds of different games. So yeah, who knows? Well, I have to think about it a little. I know Allie's doing crypto stuff now, and
Allie still plays Hearthstone.
Yeah, she does. She does come back to it, but she does a lot of crypto stuff now too.
And she still runs top 1,000. Like she's not. And I don't know if you saw it. She was the Blizzard featured content creator for the last expansion. She went down to Blizzard HQ and hung out with Celestalon and helped introduce the Death Knight.
Oh, did she? I didn't see that. That's cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the last one I saw was Garrett and Celissa. So I guess Allie did the next one.
Yeah, that was that. So yeah, Allie did like the official announcement. Garrett and Celissa hosted the
stream,
the tournament, the stream that highlighted there was like a content, and boy did they have fantastic hair.
Yeah, it's like 3 days of it too.
It was beautiful. As a balding man, I was very jealous. Doc, any shout out?